Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. This is the rest day, the first rest day here at the Tour de France for 2022. Now, hopefully you guys saw yesterday's race because I want to discuss it just a little bit further and add in the interviews that we saw later from Peter Sagan and, of course, the interview from Wout van Aert. Let's cover Wout van Aert's interview first because in his interview he talks about had he stayed on Christophe Laporte's wheel longer, he would have won the stage. Well, this isn't true. Because of the facts laid out in front of Christophe Laporte, he had no choice. He had already started his acceleration when Michael Morkov in front looks over his right shoulder to see where his sprinter Fabio Jakobsen is. At this point in time, this is when it raced pretty much any chance of Wout van Aert winning the stage here outright straight to the line. And the reason why is because as we see Christophe Laporte in the picture, he starts his sprint almost at the exact same moment as Michael Morkov in front is looking over his right shoulder. When he starts his sprint, he's coming up the left side of Michael Morkov. Morkov, as I discussed yesterday on the butterfly effect, he knows at this point in time he has to pull all the way to the left so he can open up the right side of the road for his sprinter Fabio Jakobsen and hope a miracle Hail Mary back there from Fabio Jakobsen can win the stage. It's highly possible still at this point in time because when you pull all the way to the left and you're taking out Christophe Laporte and slowing him down, Michael Morkov that is, it'll open up that all the sprinters behind Christophe Laporte's wheel are the riders that are left. And without a domestique, a super lead-out sprinter here in the group, there can cause a hesitation and Fabio Jakobsen can come from the back. Now, we saw no hesitation because Wout van Aert accelerated extremely fast at about 250 meters to go. And this goes back to his interview of saying that he jumped too soon. He actually jumped under these circumstances at the exact moment that he had to if he wanted a shot at winning the stage. Was it early? Absolutely. At just under or around 250 meters to go, that's a bit far out when there's so much speed on the wheel following Wout van Aert. But in his interview, he says he needed to wait longer on Christophe Laporte's wheel. Now let's clarify that. He didn't have the choice because as Christophe Laporte is going to the left, Michael Morkov, the sprinter for Fabio Jakobsen, has decided that he no longer wants to make the race fast and he wants to slow it down. When he starts to slow it down, he's coming back so fast that Wout van Aert being on the right side can no longer follow the wheel of Christophe Laporte at that moment. Otherwise, we see that Michael Morkov dropping back that fast would slow the speed of Wout van Aert and is slowing the speed of Christophe Laporte moving hard to the left, which leaves the only option at this moment in time for Wout van Aert is to start his acceleration. So he was perfect with his sprint starting it here. Now I want to discuss a little bit further into the video and discuss possibilities of Wout van Aert's decisions here at this moment. Because if he continues straight down the road, he's going to get beat straight up by the sprinters behind and probably get moved into about third, fourth, maybe even fifth position if he continues to go straight down to the center of the road and doesn't risk getting relegated to the back of the field. Instead, he's going to go for the stage win. This is a risky decision because he's going all the way from the center to the right, which means easily by the rules, if you look at the picture here, Peter Sagan is clearly up on the side of Wout van Aert while Wout van Aert is still taking Peter Sagan all the way to the fence, who is taking Caleb Ewan behind all the way to the fence, which means that you should be relegated at this point in time. But Wout van Aert is thinking about the stage win and not the green jersey at this point in time. So when you're thinking about the stage win, this is the tactic that you want to employ because it's the only way you can win. You have no option but to go at 250 meters because Michael Morkov's dropping back. All the sprinter speed from behind is way too much when you're leading out from 250 meters to go. And so he's trying to win the stage going all the way to the right. We all know watching bike races that the officials at this point in time could relegate him to the back or, as we saw at the end of stage 3, could give him the second place finish that he got on the stage and keep all those points for the green jersey. So while Van Aert chooses to go all the way to the fencing, he doesn't get relegated. He gets second and gains maximum points that he could have on today's stage. The problem with Wout van Aert's decision that I have while sitting up here on Beyond the Coverage is he's risking the green points jersey. At 250 meters to go when he's starting his sprint, you have to think in your mind, do I want green jersey points or do I want the stage? Now, I already said I believe he was thinking about just the stage win, and he got away with it. But I believe at 250 meters when he started his sprint, knowing that it's early at this point in time, but knowing that you're Wout van Aert and there is a ton of opportunities to gain more points later at the Tour de France on all these upcoming medium mountain stages where he can drop all the sprinters and gain maximum points here at the Tour de France. It was a risky move to go all in for the stage win because if he gotten relegated, you would lose a ton of points, and right now he would no longer have the green points jersey versus if he went to the line, got beat by 3-4 possible sprinters back there, and still got top 5 green jersey points here on stage 3 sprint, it would have secured his green jersey, and for sure there's not going to be a relegation if he sprints straight down the road. Now, it worked out in general for Wout van Aert beautifully. He got second on the stage and gained more green jersey points. But like I said, if the officials had relegated him, it would have been a nightmare stage going from top 5 points on green jersey to all of a sudden last on the stage and getting 0 points towards the green jersey. Remember, it's 50 points for the winner on flat stages here at the Tour de France, and second garners a lot of points. Top 5 still keeps you in the running though, and when you're a quality rider like Wout van Aert, I think it was a bit risky. Now, let's cover Peter Sagan's interview, because he says after being interviewed that I cannot judge the race. We have a jury for that. But later he talks about that how everyone can see from the picture that he's happy to just still be here. Okay, Peter Sagan is clearly upset, and he's using sarcasm during the interview here to portray that, and hopefully everyone can understand. A lot of people do, and when you see the different coverages in the press, some people get it, some people don't. But clearly what Peter Sagan is saying right here, that he's still happy to be in the race, is that he's happy he wasn't crashed, sent off into the barriers, into the fan, and then got taken out of the Tour de France on stage 3, just like what happened in last year's Tour de France when Caleb Ewan crashed him on the final sprint there on stage 3. So Peter Sagan is not happy. He's going to be angry, and he's going to be looking for trying to steal a big stage victory here to make up for the lost opportunity on stage 3. Now let's get into stage 4, because I still believe this is a sprinter stage. It is a little bit complicated though, because with 11 kilometers to go, they're going to summit the last climb, and it's a pretty stiff climb at 7.5% and 900 meters long. When we're talking about the pure sprinters back there, Dylan Groenewegen, who won yesterday stage 3, Fabio Jakobsen, who won on stage 2, these two sprinters could have some complication on this last climb. I'm going to say right here that I don't believe they will, but at 7.5%, that is what I'm going to focus my viewing on if I'm watching stage 4, to see whether or not if those two top quality sprinters that won stage 2 and won stage 3 can make it over that final climb and into the finish. If they can, they're big time favorites to win the stage, of course, along with Wout van Aert, Peter Sagan, and Caleb Ewan, the best sprinters here at this Tour de France. That'll bring us into stage 5. Stage 5 is what we've all been waiting for and all been talking about, because we're on the cobblestones. And this is the stage when you're watching stage 5, which will reinforce my belief that Wout van Aert made a mistake going all the way from the center of the road yesterday to the fencing and risk getting relegated to last place and losing green jersey points. When we get to this cobblestone stage, Wout van Aert will be able to dislodge the pure sprinters. Caleb Ewan, Jasper Philipsen, maybe not, might make it there, but I don't think he'll be in the front group. And of course, Fabio Jakobsen shouldn't be in that front group. So when you're watching stage 5 and Wout van Aert, if he doesn't have to wait for Primoz Roglic or Jonas Vingegaard on that cobblestone stage, he should start gaining more points against the pure sprinters at this year's Tour de France. But he's still going to have to deal with Peter Sagan, because Sagan is clearly on form. And remember, Peter Sagan is a Paris-Roubaix winner, so he knows how to ride over the cobbles. He's on form, and he's going to be motivated. Now, the stage after the cobblestones, talking stage 6, super long stage at 220 kilometers. And at the finish of that stage, it's going to get hilly, steep, and nasty. This race is going to be interesting, because here Michael Matthews from Bike Exchange will probably be the highlighted rider instead of Dylan Groenewegen, their sprinter and stage winner on yesterday's stage. I got to believe Bike Exchange are going to want Michael Matthews possibly in a breakaway up the road, or possibly Bike Exchange will control this stage to get Michael Matthews into this lumpy finish when the pure sprinters might not make it here at the finish of stage 6. Now, when we get into stage 7, Planche de Belfi, it's what we all tune into the Tour de France for, because the first week of the Tour de France is going to start wrapping up, and we're going to change the chemistry and start going into the pure GC riders on Planche de Belfi. This stage should be exciting. Could be a stage for the breakaway to get up the road like we've seen in years past when Dylan Tunes from Bahrain Victorious won this stage and we saw the jersey switch over to Trek Segafredo's Giulio Ciccone. That's a high possibility again in 2022, but the absolute fact of the matter is when the GC favorites hit Planche de Belfi, because of the steepness of this climb and the final ramp up, this gravel ramp up to the finish and the summit finish on this stage, we're going to see the GC battle. Now, we have already seen Tadej Pogacar in the stage 1 time trial. He's on fabulous form. The question really on Planche de Belfi that we're all asking ourselves right now, will Jumbo-Visma, Jonas Vingegaard, Primož Roglic, will that team light it up at the bottom of Planche de Belfi, trying to put Tadej Pogacar into trouble and isolate him, leave him without any teammates, and then be able to attack with Jonas Vingegaard and Primož Roglic? Are they going to do it on the very first summit of the Tour de France, Planche de Belfi? That is what you should be focusing when we get there to that marvelous stage and the climbing really starts here for the GC favorites. I hope you guys like my take here on Beyond the Covers. The Butterfly Effect is up next for tomorrow's Stage 4, which should be another exciting sprint finish. Make sure you like and subscribe and tune in often to the Butterfly Effect, and I'll see you guys on the next edition.